I'm 29 and so is my wife, Steph. We've been married for 3 years. For most of that time, everything seemed perfect. We never had trust issues, never fought about loyalty, never doubted each other. She was my world, calm, bright, beautiful, and for a long time I thought she felt the same about me. But somewhere along the line, something changed. I don't know when, I can't point to a day or a moment, but suddenly she felt far away. Smash that like button, hit subscribe, and keep watching because the best part's coming up next. It started small. She became hard to reach whenever she went out with her friends. I'd text, maybe call, but she wouldn't respond. Not until she was back home. Sometimes I'd see the messages unread, hours old. When I asked her about it, she said she got busy, lost track of time, forgot her phone. Her explanations made sense at first until they didn't. Then came the scent. She's always worn the same perfume. A soft floral scent that I loved. I knew it by heart, and when she came home smelling different, even faintly, it was like being hit with a cold wind. Once I leaned into her car to grab something and caught the unmistakable scent of a man's cologne. Not hers, not mine, something foreign. I asked her about it, trying to sound casual. She said she'd given a coworker a ride home because his car was in the shop. Simple enough, but that explanation stuck in my head, turning over and over. It was possible, sure, but something in me didn't buy it. Then there were the texts, the way she'd tilt her phone ever so slightly away from me, the way she'd smile down at her screen, eyes glowing, thumb flicking fast. I told myself it could be her friends, her sister, anyone. But the doubt had already rooted itself deep inside me. I tried to push it down. I even sat her down one evening and told her that I'd noticed changes in her behavior. I didn't accuse her of anything. I just said I wanted to make sure she was okay, that we were okay. She smiled, said everything was fine, and assured me nothing was wrong. But her words didn't match her eyes. For a while, I tried to convince myself that I was paranoid. Maybe I'd read too many stories online about cheating. Maybe I was projecting. But deep down, I knew. You can feel it in your bones when someone's lying to you. After weeks of doubt, I decided I couldn't keep living like that, half believing, half hoping. So I took the advice I'd seen others give in similar situations. I bought a small voice-activated recorder from Amazon. It could record for over 100 hours. I had it delivered to my workplace so she wouldn't suspect anything. I tested it there, then brought it home. When she got back that night, I told her I wanted to check something in her car. As a mechanic, that wasn't unusual for me to say. She didn't even question it. I found a discreet spot and tucked the recorder away. The first day, I retrieved it just to test. It worked perfectly. I could hear her phone calls, her singing, the hum of traffic. It was all normal, nothing suspicious. For 2 weeks, I kept it hidden, checking it occasionally, waiting. Each day that went by without proof made me feel more like a villain, like a man spying on the woman he loved. But the suspicion wouldn't die. Then, one evening, I finally found what I was looking for, or maybe what I was dreading. The files on the recorder were longer than usual, so I sat down in my workshop and listened. It started with small talk. Her voice, light and cheerful, and then a man's voice. He called her Steph, laughed easily, talked about work. She called him Sebastian. They gossiped about people in their office. I told myself it was harmless, just co-workers, just a friendly ride. But then the sound of the engine cut off. There was a pause, a giggle. Then the man's voice, soft, teasing, said, You do this every time." Her voice followed, shy but playful. "I'm just nervous, that's all." He laughed. "You don't need to be shy anymore." And then I heard it. The sounds that made my stomach drop. Kissing, whispering, then quiet moans, shifting fabric. The unmistakable rhythm of two people crossing a line they could never uncross. I don't know how long I sat there. I listened to the whole thing, every sound, every breath. The car I'd bought her with my own money had become their hiding place. When it was over, I cut the audio to just that part, saved it, and never listened again. I stored it on my phone on the cloud, proof of the moment my marriage died. I didn't confront her immediately. I was furious. No, beyond furious. But I remembered what others had said. Wait, get everything ready. So I contacted a divorce lawyer the next morning. I didn't want to see her, didn't want to hear her voice, but I forced myself to act calm. When the papers were ready, I waited for the weekend. We were both home when the process server came. I answered the door, called her over, and handed her the envelope. She took it absent-mindedly, still watching the show we'd been sitting through, and tore it open. At first, she didn't understand. "What's this?" she asked, flipping through the pages, confused. I told her. "Divorce papers." Her face went pale. "They're not for me, are they?" "They are," I said coldly. She laughed nervously as if I was joking. "What did I do?" I didn't answer. I just pulled out my phone and pressed play. The recording filled the room. The same words I'd listened to alone echoed back at her. "You don't need to be shy anymore," Sebastian's voice said, followed by the sound of her own laughter. She lunged for my phone, but I pulled it out of her reach. "If I had to listen to it," I said quietly. "So do you." She broke down. Tears streamed down her face as she begged me to stop. She cried harder when the recording ended, swearing it was a mistake, that she didn't mean for it to happen. She confessed everything through sobs, that Sebastian worked in her building, that they'd met in the elevator, that he'd flirted, that she'd liked the attention. She said she wore her ring, told him she was married, but he didn't care. One evening he'd asked for a ride, and somehow that ride ended in an empty parking lot behind an old warehouse. She claimed she tried to pull away, that it just happened. But then she admitted it happened again and again, whenever he managed to catch her after work. "It was wrong," she said, "but it was exciting. I don't know why I couldn't stop." Her words didn't move me. They made me sick. I told her there was no coming back from this. She sobbed, begged me to talk, to forgive, to listen, but all I could say was, "Get out." I gave her 1 hour to leave before I did something I'd regret. She packed and left. The silence that followed was unbearable. You don't realize how loud a person's absence can be until it's the only thing you can hear. I loved her once, deeply, but that night, sitting in the ruins of our home, all I could feel was rage and betrayal. The divorce went through easily. Steph didn't fight. She said she felt too guilty to argue. She let me keep our apartment, refused alimony, only asked for a few months' rent money and the car. I agreed, not because I was merciful, but because I wanted her gone. But I wasn't done. Not yet. Her company had strict policies about relationships between co-workers, so I sent the evidence to HR, the recording, everything. It took weeks, but eventually both she and Sebastian were fired. When she called me after it happened, her voice was broken, small. She said she knew I'd reported them, but she wasn't angry and just sad. She said she understood she'd brought it on herself. She cried over the phone until I hung up. I thought that would be the end of it. But revenge has a strange way of keeping you company. I knew how much she'd always wanted to visit Banff in Canada. It was her dream destination. So a few months later, I went. I hiked the trails, breathed the mountain air, took hundreds of photos, and I posted them all. When she messaged me asking if I was really there, I told her yes. She didn't reply for an entire day. I knew it must have burned. Then I went to a concert for one of her favorite bands. I posted pictures from that too. A week later, I shared a photo with a woman I'd recently met. Just a friend, really, but Steph didn't know that. The next day, she called me again. Her voice cracked. She said she'd seen my posts and was happy for me. She said she was sorry, truly sorry for everything. "You didn't deserve any of it," she said. "You were a good man and I ruined that. I've been dealing with so much self-hate lately. I just wanted you to know I'm sorry." And for the first time I smiled, not out of love, out of closure. I listened quietly, then told her, "I heard you." And I hung up. Then I blocked her number, her social media, everything. That was the last time I ever heard her voice. People always say forgiveness is freeing, but I don't think that's true. Sometimes freedom comes from finality, from knowing that the person who hurt you will never have access to you again. Steph destroyed our marriage. I showed her what that cost, and now I'm done. She can live with her guilt. I'll live my life, one concert, one trip, one sunrise at a time. Because in the end, I wasn't paranoid. I was patient, and patience, as it turns out, gives you proof. So if you ever find yourself in my shoes, if you suspect, if you feel that gnawing dread that something's wrong, trust yourself. Gather your evidence. Protect your peace, and when the truth comes, don't scream, don't beg, don't fight. Just hand them the papers, press play, and walk away. Honestly, this story is a harsh reminder of how fragile trust can be. It shows that patience and attention to the small signs matter, and how facing the truth, no matter how painful, can give you closure and strength. What I love about this story is its realism. It doesn't sugarcoat the betrayal, but it also shows that moving on and reclaiming your peace is possible. For anyone listening, it's a story of heartbreak, yes, but also a lesson in self-respect and resilience. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more. Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear how you'd react if you were in Ethan's shoes.